I'm D-Rock with Zelda Theory, and today I'm here to answer a question that I've seen a lot personally going around this amazing Zelda community. What's the deal with Ganon and Ganondorf? Are they the same person, or are they two completely different entities? Why is the Zelda series so confusing? Well, let's dive into the content, and hopefully with this video I can answer this question clearly and bring you some value. Let's do it. So the short answer, it's both. Ganon and Ganondorf are the same person, and yet at the same time, two different entities if we get down to the nitty-gritty of things, right? Now, if you're interested to hear more, let's dive more into this topic together and explain just how Ganon and Ganondorf are different and not the same person. Sound good? By the way, all my sources for this video are listed and linked in the description below. Huge thanks to these amazing creators. The Legend of Zelda's lore is extremely confusing, right? I mean, I get it, I get that 100%, and I'm what you would consider an quote old school Zelda fan. I mean, it doesn't help that the timeline is so scattered because of the fact of it branching out into 3 separate timelines. Yep, I know, that's a thing. I'm here to tell you, though, that the source of all the confusion is more than likely from one of the best games in the series, Ocarina of Time, which is exactly where the timeline splits into 3 branches, which are labeled as the child timeline, the adult timeline, and the decline timeline, which the latter is most interesting in my opinion because this is a timeline where Link doesn't win. He fails, he loses, he falls to the darkness. Every single event that has happened in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and beyond has in one shape or another added to the overarching confusion for the series in general, all the while confusing us even more with the series' main villain, Ganon, as well as Ganondorf. The very first time you see these characters chronologically is in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and for the most part, what I would like to focus on for the remainder of the video. A pretty interesting fact from the Gerudo race is that they are primarily all female. One male is born to the otherwise all-female Gerudo every century, and that male becomes king by birthright, regardless of what kind of leader he actually is. I guess you could say it's a tradition in their race. Ganondorf, now the king of the Gerudo, swears his allegiance to the king of Hyrule. This then leads to the point Ganondorf can access the sacred realm and gain the Triforce of Power. It's like the king just gave him the keys, right? The rest of Ocarina of Time covers Link's and Zelda's effort to undo Ganon's reign as the evil king, and let me tell you what an adventure it is, man. Link's usage of time travel and how severe Ganondorf's threat to Hyrule becomes eventually causes the outcome of Ocarina's final battle to split Zelda's single, uncomplicated timeline into 3 extremely confusing ones. Oh joy. So at this point, I'd like to talk about how Ganon and Ganondorf actually became 2 different entities. After our hero defeats Ganondorf in Hyrule Castle towards the end of the game, which is his human form, right? Ganondorf then uses the last little bit of the Triforce of Power that he had left to collapse Hyrule Castle on top of himself, Link, and Zelda. This cutscene is truly amazing. If you haven't seen it yet, Link and Zelda come out of the rubble with little to no injuries, and a desperate Ganondorf is then completely transformed by the Triforce of Power into a giant beast, and quite literally, actually. This powerful beast that Ganondorf transformed into by the Triforce of Power is what we refer to as Ganon. Are you with me? The outcome of this fight is where the Zelda timeline goes all crazy and then splits into the 3 branches that I covered towards the beginning of this video. And at this point, I would like to go into adding some more context to these timelines so that the point of this video, hopefully, it becomes more clear to you. In the Decline timeline, or sometimes it's referred to as the Fallen Hero timeline from the Zelda community, I'd like you to think of this timeline as a quote alternate reality of the adult timeline, okay? Which I will talk about later. So Ganon actually wins here, right? Meaning he defeats Link and gains the full power of the Triforce. With no Link to stop the destruction of Ganon's mayhem, the 7 sages step in and seal the Demon King, Ganon, away. Now, according to the most recent version of the Hyrule Historia, which is honestly the only legit thing we the fans have to go by as far as clarity and facts when it comes to the Zelda series, Ganon actually never becomes human again in the Fallen Hero timeline or the Decline timeline. Link's emotional and truly tragic defeat in Ocarina of Time allows the ultimate rage and power of Ganon to go unchecked and never be stopped. I mean, I guess all the 7 sages could do was just seal him, right? I mean, what about Zelda? What was she doing? Anyways, this is why all games on this timeline, so we have A Link to the Past, Oracle of Ages Seasons, Link Between Worlds, The Legend of Zelda, and Adventure of Link, as well as Triforce Heroes. I mean, I guess I'll include that one. Feature the beast versions of Ganondorf, if they even feature him at all. Now, over time, as this timeline progresses, Ganon, Ganondorf's beast form, loses any trace of the human he used to be. I think that's pretty cool. The next timeline that was formed from the outcome of Ocarina of Time is the adult timeline, which includes the games Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. The adult timeline is the set of events that transpire when our hero Link wins or defeats Ganondorf. This, of course, alters things drastically, right? Of course, the adult timeline starts towards the beginning of Ocarina of Time when Princess Zelda first meets Link and instructs him to gather the spiritual stones and open the door of time in an effort to beat Ganondorf to the Triforce. Although these events technically flow naturally from the preceding period, this distinction is made to differentiate it from the child timeline, which is a different branch resulting from Link being sent back from the future and changing these events. Does that make sense? The adult timeline portion of Ocarina of Time consists of Link completing the remaining dungeons after he has pulled the Master Sword from the pedestal of time. This later leads on to the defeat of the Demon King Ganon and culminates into the adult ending. Zelda sends Link back in time, causing the creation of the child timeline, but she remains on the adult timeline where Link no longer exists and Ganon is sealed in the Sacred Realm. Once Zelda has sent Link back into the child timeline, she then replaces the Master Sword back into the pedestal of time, thus sealing the door of time. Now here's a pretty interesting theory for you I feel like you'll like. I feel that the strength of the Sage's seal from Ocarina of Time and Ganon's weakened state eventually brings him back to human Ganondorf. This action then leads to the Ganondorf that we see in Wind Waker. However, caveat here, Wind Waker's King of Red Lions points out a huge flaw in Ganondorf's naming system. Quote, Ganon is also a shortening of, quote, Ganondorf. Pretty interesting though, isn't it? I hope that wasn't too confusing. Next we have the child timeline, which includes the games Majora's Mask, one of the best in my opinion, Twilight Princess, and Four Swords Adventures. This split in the timeline happens when Zelda sends Link back to relive his childhood at the end of Ocarina. Link warns Zelda and the King of Hyrule of Ganondorf's true intentions, and Ganondorf is then imprisoned before any of the events of Ocarina of Time can actually take place. Ganondorf obtains the Triforce of Power regardless in the next game, Twilight Princess, but he is properly killed by Link before he can turn into Ganon. Eventually, a reincarnated Ganondorf is born to the Gerudo tribe, leading to the events of Four Swords Adventures. Now with all of this being explained, if you are still here, I love you and I appreciate you. Type hashtag #BeTheLight in the comments so I know you made it this far. All of these details then lead to the speculation around Breath of the Wild and its sequel, right? Breath of the Wild introduces a new complete form, Calamity Ganon, which Impa refers to as a, quote, primal evil, right? However, using the name, quote, Ganon implies that Calamity Ganon was once at one point, way in the past, a human Ganondorf. Now, I think the series picked up a lot of ground in the first teaser for Breath of the Wild 2 when some version of Ganondorf was revealed under Hyrule Castle. Sure, I guess you can make the argument that it's still not 100% guaranteed that this is Ganondorf, but come on, dude. Who else could this be? Let's just be honest right here. Whew. Talk about a crazy long explanation for the question in the title, right? Well, this is a Zelda Explained video. Trust me, I 100% understand how confusing the difference between Ganon and Ganondorf in The Legend of Zelda can be, but I do hope I was able to make things just a little more clear for you and bring you some value. Just remember this one thing for me, okay? Ganondorf is the human Gerudo man, whereas Ganon is the man's transformed beast form. Quote, Ganon is also a nickname for Ganondorf, sometimes you could say that too, I guess. The example I can think of here is Ganon from Wind Waker, but hey, don't worry about that too much, okay? If you found value here today, give this video a like. If you are new, subscribe, turn on all notifications, and hey, listen, click here so we can nerd out on some more Zelda and hang out some more. Let's talk soon. Much peace and love.